The world is on fire. And if you are an American citizen and you end up stuck overseas or heck, just somewhere where you're in need of help and the US government isn't coming to save the day, who should you call? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by AMP America. Very excited to be part of the AMP America team. Be sure to head over to ampamerica.com for all of your news pieces, opinion pieces, and more without the corporate media fluff. One more time, ampamerica.com. Also, Cardio Miracle. It is our studio sponsor, and it is, in fact, the best heart health supplement in the world. I've been using Cardio Miracle now for about a year, and what have I seen? Blood pressure drop, better restful night's sleep, better pump at the gym. The secret ingredient, nitric oxide. It helps improve blood flow throughout the body, and yes, help improve overall health, heart health function. So if you want to join the tens of thousands of other folks like yours truly who's experienced the Cardio Miracle difference for themselves, heck, join the hundreds of folks here in the Brian Nichols Show audience who have already jumped on board the Cardio Miracle bandwagon. I promise you have nothing to lose because number one, there's a 100% money back guarantee, but number two, there's a 15% off discount if you use our code TBNS at checkout, or if you're watching the video version of the show, head down below into the video description, click the link, instantly will have discount applied at checkout. Folks, I've been touting Cardio Miracle for a year now, and I wouldn't be promoting it if I didn't believe in the product. I use it literally every single day, morning and night. I see the difference for myself. I know you will as well. One more time, Cardio Miracle, the best heart health supplement in the world. I guarantee your heart will thank you. Speaking of your heart thanking you, or maybe your brain thanking you, I'm not sure. If you find yourself overseas and all of a sudden the proverbial hits the fan, like maybe you were down in Haiti and you were just hanging out, having a good time, and all of a sudden Haiti just turns into a complete dumpster fire. You got people turning other people into a barbecue of sorts in the middle of a street. Yeah, things aren't looking too hot down there. And if you're an American citizen and you pick up the phone and call Mr. and Mrs. US government and say, hey, can you come help me out? Please get me out of here. And they say, no. Well, then what? Then what do you do? That's where today's guest comes into to hopefully save the day, and that is one Bryan Stern from Project Dynamo. Returning to the program, Brian, what's new in your world?
Thanks for having us again, Brian. I appreciate it. We're in the Caribbean. We've been working in Haiti for the last coming up on a month now. Haiti has gone a little sideways. They've had some internal strife. Haiti's been a problem child in this part of the world, or a problem child for many, many, many years. It's not new. Many years ago, the kind of inside joke was the best thing that could happen to Haiti is an earthquake. That way it could reset. And that happened, and it didn't work. And then there was, well, maybe there's maybe a bigger one. And then that happened, that didn't work. So here we are. So basically the main population centers are overrun by gangs. The gangs are incredibly violent, incredibly unsophisticated, both tactically and just with respect to themselves. A huge amount of the gang members are 14, 15-year-old kids with belt-fed machine guns. So they're not Al-Qaeda, they're not ISIS, they're not the Russians, they're not Hamas. It's more like a riot, like a very well organized riot with heavily armed people all over the place, who are angry and uneducated and impoverished and hopeless in many ways of their lives, and therefore angry at their government for a lot of reasons. So that's kind of the situation, to the extent that the U.S. Embassy or United States State Department recommended everyone evacuate the country forever ago, long time ago already. We joined with the State Department in telling Americans don't go to Haiti. It's just not safe. Kidnappings are high, and the bad guys are so crazy. They literally have literally burned people, cooked them, and ate them on Instagram. Literally. So you're dealing with a very, very, very odd threat. Frankly, they're not religious zealots who are looking to die for their God like we're used to. They're not sent by their government like what we see with the Russians, where the Russian troops are sent to invade. It's not like it's an insurgency, kind of. It's a riot, kind of, but it's not very well done in a lot of ways. But they're incredibly violent, and the Haitian government is present, but Haiti's had problems for forever. So it's not surprising that they're not very well equipped to deal with a lot of these issues. So that that's also not news.
So I want to go back to the point you were just really focusing on here. And that it sounds like Haiti really, Bri, has turned into a perfect storm. You have a group of very young individuals, 14, 15, 16 years old, as you said, which, for anybody who knows a 14, 15 or 16-year-old boy, that's already just, bad news as a starting off point. But then you add in all these other factors, right? You add in the economic turmoil, you add in the natural disasters, you add in just the societal collapse, and it really leads to this perfect storm. And yet, and as you pointed out, there is no real coalescing mission. There is no thing that pulls people together here. There is no, I guess, proverbial ism, right? That people are unifying behind. You look over to the Israeli Palestinian conflict over there. You have the Ukrainian Russian conflict. There is some type of ism that is at play here, but really it just sounds like this is almost a controlled chaos. It's not controlled. It is just absolute chaos. So I guess, Brian, how does that change when you're going in boots on the ground at Project Dynamo? How does that change your approach? Because you're not in a traditional war zone, but you're really into an area of just complete insanity. What does that look like from your end?
Yeah. So I from an operational command perspective, from a risk perspective, from a threat perspective, from a tactical perspective, I'm humbled to say that we learned a lot. We have learned a lot. This is very new for us. Generally, we've rescued over 7,000 people, over 620 something operations, I think, something like that, all over the world, right? From Afghanistan, Ukraine, Russia, Sudan, Maui, Hurricane Ian, Israel, Gaza, and a couple of places that we don't talk about. And now here we are in Haiti. Haiti is different insofar as, number one, the government is intact. It is. There's a Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Haiti, and they go to work every single day. There's air traffic control, and you need a license to land, which is kind of strange for us. One of the biggest differences is that the U.S. Embassy is not evacuated. The U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince is staffed by a couple of hundred Marines with State Department folks and everything else. Now they evacuated non-mission essential people and families and stuff, and they've shut down a lot of services, your basic embassy service stuff or whatever. But at the end of the day, there's an American flag flying over the U.S. Embassy. That's a new one for us. We've never worked in a place, that's usually that's usually what gets us on an airplane is the evacuation of the embassy. That's what usually gets us deployed. So there's a lot of lessons learned, or just a lot of differences, I should say, to say nothing of the fact of the island of Cascaya, or the island of Hispaniola. Half of it is Haiti and half of it is Dominican Republic. From the capital of DR to the capital of Haiti by helicopter, about 90 minutes. That's the closest we've ever had to do an operation from friendly territory to our operating environment. In Ukraine, I'm 31 hours away by car from anything that resembles a friend. So even from the tactical perspective of we're able to do multiple operations by helicopter, not even by plane, in one day. That's a new thing for us. We're usually, the distances that we have to travel typically are so far. In Sudan, we're rescuing people at a Khartoum, but we staged at a Cairo. Needed a big plane to do that. A helicopter wouldn't even make it. So the execution side of Haiti is also very different for us. In some ways, in very good ways, and in some ways more challenging, depending on which perspective and which issue you're talking about.
So going back to, again, again, this is a very weird scenario because, to your point, the government still stands in Haiti, and yet you see like the roaming gangs, and back to the point that there really is no coalescing ism behind the violence towards, the chaos. Do you find that makes things more unpredictable when you're going to a environment like this?
Yeah, tremendously, right? Because let's say you have a gang leader. Let's say we can talk to a gang leader, which we don't, but let's just say that we did. And I make a deal with the gang leader, and I say, do me a favor. I want to rescue a whole bunch of Americans from this particular place. Please tell your men don't shoot on this road. I've had that conversation with bad guys all over the world, right? Sometimes honestly, sometimes not honestly, but at the end of the day, that's the end state that I'm trying to get is safety, right? If you do a rescue operation and everybody gets killed, that's called a fail. So we don't do that. In Haiti, because of the decentralized nature of the gangs, even if a gang leader got on TV or got onto to WhatsApp and ordered his men, whatever you do from here to here, that's a green zone, I don't have a lot of faith that it'll actually be followed. There's not the command and control part of gangland. It sounds crazy, but it reminds me of a lot of like the BLM riot stuff. It's kind of like that, where things would get, people would show up to BLM protests with oak tag, and then a bunch of other people would show up to BLM protests with baseball bats and all kinds of other crazy things and cause a lot of problems. If the leader of the BLM protest in whatever place very often would say, we want a peaceful protest, when that person said it, generally speaking, they meant it. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean people listen and follow it, as we learned. This is very similar insofar as the leaders of the gangs, they're not religious zealots. They are not prepared to die for their cause. They're not. They're not trying to die for their country. They're not dying for Allah or Jesus or anything. They really don't want to die. They really don't. So if we tell them, hey, do this or else, they'll comply. The problem is below them, their command and control isn't exactly rigid. It's not the 82nd Airborne Division where the commander gives an order and it's followed. This is not that. This is a bunch of punk kids who are bloodthirsty. I mean, that's what a lot of this is what you see in a lot of the countries like this is that once you get kids who have nothing, who have no future, who have no hope, who have no food, they have no education, they're completely they're from a life perspective, they're in deep kimchi and they know it and not really having a way out. Mm-hmm. They know that their future is bleak if they're lucky. That's how the movie starts for them. When you take people like that and arm them, unless you give them a reason to be nice, they'll continue to be bad, mm-hmm. right? A famous guy said one time, it's easier to destroy than it is to create. It's easier to take a life than to save a life, right? And as someone who has done, who knows a little something about taking lives and saving lives, I'll tell you, anyone can drop the hammer on a bad guy. It is really hard to rescue a good guy. It's very difficult. So, with these kinds of with kids like this and people like this, once they kind of get that flavor for it, and they're above the law, and the world is their oyster because they've got an AK-47 and 200 rounds of ammo, and you're going to do what I say because I'm going to kill you if you don't, and that's just the way it's going to be. Unless you give them an alternative, that will not change. And therefore, the only end state is force. The only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. It's just historical fact. So You take 20 punk kids from Haiti who are armed to the teeth, and you say, hey, guys, it would be really great if you went to astronomy class in the schools that you don't have. They say, how about we kill you instead? And I say, well, there's 20 of you, there's 50 of us. Pretty sure we're going to win this discussion. How about you put your guns down? Unless you can do that conversation, they will continue to be a rebel, an armed group of just kids who are just causing problems. It's just
and Brian, like, I know that there's going to be folks who are listening to this episode. They're going to be like, geez, that sounds a little aggressive. Like, you know, we're just going to come up to you and be like, yo, we're going to have this dialogue, and it's going to literally be, we have more guns than you do, back away. And I think there's this intrinsic, like, do good mentality of the American spirit that just, they hear that and they're like, that just doesn't sound like that's really that polite, Brian. You didn't give them a chance to voice their concerns, to voice their opinions, how they would want things to go. But you're addressing the very real reality that this is a power dynamic. Like, it's us or them in this scenario. And in this case, you have more guns. It literally is just basic math, really.
Well, and this is the thing is just I want to be careful with my words. The demonstration of force does not inherently have to be the use of force.
Right.
That's the nature of deterrence. The nature,
it's the Teddy Roosevelt speak softly, carry a big stick.
That's it. It's, hey, look, I don't want to kill you and you don't want to be dead, but I promise if we have to have this conversation, I promise you're going to lose this conversation. So let's avoid the conversation. I've got more men, more guns, more stuff, more this, more that. And by the way, I'm twice your age. I'm going to kick your butt. So don't make me prove it to you. Please, I beg you, don't make me prove it to you. But if you test me, I am resolute and I will do what needs to be done. That message needs to be communicated to these kinds of folks. And therefore you have deterrence and from deterrence you get peace. The title, I lecture on this stuff all the time. It's a little bit off topic, but it matters. The title of the United States National Defense Strategy, which is the governing document of the Department of Defense. That's the governing that tells us how many sniper rifles we buy and how many troops we have and all the things. The title of it is Integrated Deterrence. And the concept is that we showcase to the world how awesome our military is and how capable we are, how everything works together like Mac, right? iPhone, iPad, and Mac, it all just works. And it's so magic and it's so integrated, so good, you'd have to be out of your mind to pick a fight with us because we're that good. We're that good. Now, this is the reason why this is an important data point or important point is because that same document lists 4 key threats: China, Russia, Iran, and violent extremist organizations, which is the cool name for terrorists. China, Russia, Iran, and terrorists. Today, we are kinetically engaged in Ukraine with Russia. We are kinetically engaged with the Iranians. We're basically kinetically engaged with the Chinese. And there are more American hostages in captivity in the last 44 years. So from a deterrence perspective, that means that we are failing. That's what that means. So our governing document, Integrated Deterrence, which is designed to keep peace and not go to war, the 4 key threats listed in it, we're kinetically engaged as we speak. That means that we're not deterring very well. Mm-hmm. If you take that same logic and apply that to Haiti, the same logic prevails. If you say, hey, guys, you better not or else, and they don't believe you and you don't back it up, well, they have no reason to be deterred. And therefore, they act out, and therefore you get gangs owning whole cities. That's what happens. That's what happens. It's a lack of deterrent value or a lack of credible threat, some people would say. That doesn't mean you have to go in there and hose down kids with machine gun fire, but they need to think that you would, though. They need to think that you would. If they don't believe it, then you're just a guy that talks too much.
It's just like parenting a kid, right? If you make a threat, hey, you do that again, I'm taking the iPad away. And then the kid does it again. And you're like, yeah, okay, just stop it, darn it. And then you don't take the kid's iPad away. Guess what? They're going to keep doing it because they know it's an empty threat. And that's where I feel right now. Yeah. And Brian, like you mentioned this, and I know we're getting hard pressed for time, but I want to go back to something really quick. And I mean, you raised up 2020. We all felt it. We all saw it happen around us. Like, you had the summer of love, fiery, but mostly peaceful protests. But things are getting a little weird here, Brian. I mean, like, do you ever, I dare even putting this into the world and like voicing this, but like, do you ever see a scenario where maybe Project Dynamo isn't going overseas to rescue Americans, but it's actually happening right here at home?
I pray for that to not happen.
Me too.
But as a career intelligence officer, 25 years doing this, almost 26 years doing this, which was why I have so much gray hair. The laws of probability dictate that it is more likely than not, overwhelmingly, that we get hit here domestically as a 9/11, a 9/11 2.0 or bigger. And maybe not, and highly likely not one thing, meaning not just New York, not just the Twin Towers, in multiple areas, which we saw on 9/11 too. But I would predict that this is on a much bigger scale if I had to predict it. And when that happens, we'll spin up too. But it remains to be seen what that looks like. But the world has, at least in my career, has not been this scary, at least in my career. We are, again, if you go to the National Defense Strategy, which I talk about all the time, and no one ever goes to the web, it's unclassified. You can go to the website and read it. It's not a secret or anything. When you look through that document, which is the governing document of our entire everything, that's the everything. When you read that document, it's very clear that we need to go back to the drawing board. Our strategy is not working. We're Project Dynamo, as a donor-funded nonprofit on a shoestring budget. We're like a rounding error for lug nut grease in the State Department motor pool, right? As I talk to you, I have active operations in the Western Hemisphere. I have active operations in Africa. I have active operations in the Middle East. I have active operations in Asia. And have active operations in Europe. Where I'm from in Queens, that's called basically the entire world. That's a mistake. That's a real problem. That's a real problem. That if that's a scene setter for the future, that doesn't bode well, to the extent that, and then nowhere in there is our domestic political stuff with all the Biden-Trump stuff, and what that turns into, and who knows. I mean, that's just the way the world is right now, and okay, that's fine. People ask me all the time, well, once the president is out and there's a change of administration, life will be okay. I don't believe that for a moment. That's not true. These problems are long-term problems. These are not, you can't flip a switch. The world reacts to us, but it also doesn't turn on a dime either. So, Maui is a great case study. Now, nobody talks about Maui, right? Maui is the largest loss of life of American citizens since 9/11.
Wow.
And that is yesterday's news. No one's been held. There hasn't even been an investigation.
Nobody talks about it. No.
When 9/11 happened, we spent years doing the 9/11 Commission report and combing through this and who knew what to who and how did what to improve. There is no, Maui massacre investigation board panel thing. We're more worried about Mayorkas and that stuff. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's important too. But the largest loss of life since 9/11 in 23 years, maybe we should ask you a question how that happened.
Brian, I think that's at the very least a good starting off point. Maybe try to figure out what the heck happened so we can, I don't know, stop it from happening in the future. But that might be a different conversation for a different day. Heck, we actually had you, I think last time on the show, you were talking about all the work you guys were doing specifically in Maui. We were going through. So how about this? If folks are watching us on the YouTubes, they stick around right about here. The episode that you were most recently on before today's episode will pop up. So you can go ahead and check that out. But Brian, as we're wrapping things up, I want to just go towards one point that you raised up earlier, and that is the uncertainty, right? And just we are by our nature a creature that likes to plan. We like to prepare. We like to know what's going to happen. We don't like surprises. And yet it seems like, especially in the past 4 years, is that a lot of things that have been happening have been just that, surprises. We didn't expect a COVID-19 pandemic to shut down not just a state, a country, the literal world. We didn't expect that. We didn't expect the Maui wildfires. We didn't expect the Russian-Ukrainian engagement over there. We didn't expect Haiti to literally turn into like a complete dumpster fire overnight. So there's a lot of things I think people are looking at now saying, what's next, right? And I will just say, it does give me a little bit of hope. And this has been a recurring theme on the show, is despite lots of not so great things, let's try to find some of the areas for hope. I look at what you're doing at Project Dynamo and I say, there is the hope, not just from what you guys are doing, but you're giving the blueprints to other folks out there who they've been sitting on their hands and they're like, man, the world is on fire and I don't know what to do. Here you go. Here is a blueprint. Take it, use it in any way that you feel your passion, your skills are best utilized, whether that's helping, improve your local community or helping organizing your local community, getting things prepared for worst case scenarios in your local community, or whatever else it may be. If you find that you're compelled and you're being called right now to answer based on what you're hearing from this episode, saying, man, I wish I could do that, you can. Brian, like, yeah, you were in the armed services, but like, there's no special badge or special award or license you got to say, I'm going to start Project Dynamo to go help hundreds, thousands of people who are in need. You just did it. And that's what I think we need to take away from this episode, is that if you see a problem or you think there's going to be a problem, take action, because at the end of the day, nobody else will. So Brian, that's my final thoughts. What do you have for us on your end? And also, where can folks go ahead and support the amazing organization that is Project Dynamo?
ProjectDynamo.org is our website. Of course, we're on social media. God forbid we don't do an Instagram post or something. So we're on all the things that I don't know how to use. I have people who help me with that. But ProjectDynamo.org is where you can go to ask for help. But most importantly, where you can go to give help. And when I hear, I get this all the time, the country's on fire, the world is on fire, the world's coming to an end. Oh my God, we're it's all messed up, and the Republicans did that, and the Democrats did the other thing, and whatever else. It's easy to fall into this trap of we suck or whatever, right? And then I look at my donor database, people who have given us money, right? We have over 55,000 people who have chosen to say, from both sides of the aisle, every state in the union, every major city, California to Chicago to Texas to Florida. Those are people who have chosen to say, I'm not going to just watch this on TV. Our motto at Dynamo is don't be a spectator. It's what our little bracelet guys say, don't be a spectator, right? That's our motto. And that's how I started Dynamo. I said, I'm not going to watch this on TV anymore. I'm not. Don't be a spectator does not mean that you have to strap on body armor and go get shot at in Haiti like we do. It could be share a Facebook post. It could be make $1 donation a month. It could be tell your friends about whatever. It could even just be keep what's going on in Haiti alive, or what's going on in Afghanistan alive, or Ukraine, or Sudan, or talk about Maui, or just be informed. Take the time to have an informed opinion. Whatever your opinion may be, whatever side of the aisle you may be, just do something other than just watch and go, yeah, that sucks. My heart gets warmed every time I fall into, and I fall into that trap all the time. In the rescue game, I spend most of my days just frustrated and pissed off. It's kind of a homeostasis. What gets me out of that is letters that we get from people. People we get emails all the time. I'm on a fixed income. I'm elderly. I'm on Social Security. I can only afford $10 a month, but please, I'll have two less cups of coffee this month just to help you out. Get those emails all the time from just Americans. They're not Republicans. They're not Democrats. They're not hairy. They're not bald. They're not short. They're not fat. They're not black. They're not white. They're not anything. They're just Americans that choose to do something, and they choose not to be a spectator. When I look towards the future and I think about China and Taiwan, It took the military 6 days to go from Hawaii to Hawaii, right? 591 military aircraft sat for 6 days in Hawaii and couldn't figure out how to get to Hawaii. Okay? If we say that that's a metaphor for Taiwan, notwithstanding all the legal issues that go into defending a country whose sovereignty we don't recognize and what does that mean and all the other things. The bottom line is if you're an American in Taiwan and you're hoping that the American military shows up, recognizing they couldn't figure out how to get to Hawaii from Hawaii, that scares the bejesus out of me. That those kinds of big issues where people are counting on help and they deserve the help because we're Americans, knowing from my perspective, 7,000 people later in 28 months, which is unbelievable. We've done something like 620 operations. It turns into about one every other day. That is a higher battle rhythm than every single SEAL team combined in the United States, collectively. And we are not that big. We are tiny. When we say these stats, people think I say them as like a banner of pride. Not. I say that with fear and trepidation. Fear and trepidation. Because the big boy threats out there like China, they will clean our clocks. And they will. And if we can't figure out how to go from Hawaii to Hawaii for a lot of reasons, that's not the president. Everyone's very keen that, President Biden didn't call up the Pacific Fleet commander and say, I order you don't fly those helicopters. That didn't happen. It was just a mess and it got all screwed up and they didn't do a very good job managing the situation. Okay. When we say things like China and Taiwan, that's really scary. If Sudan was too hard, if Haiti was too hard, if Israel was too hard, if Gaza was too hard, Afghanistan too hard, all these other things are too hard. Then when you talk about real big boy problems like China, Taiwan, we have some homework to do. It's 100 miles. It from mainland China to Taiwan is 100 miles. That is closer than Manhattan to the Hamptons. And people fly from Manhattan. People go to the Hamptons every weekend, right? From New York.
Yep.
So when you say it like that, that sounds incredibly scary if you're hoping and praying and banking on the idea that we'll be able to figure it out as a country, as a government, as a military, as a institution called the United States of America. We have got to figure that out, and it needs to be done real quick. We do not have a capability problem. We don't have a capacity problem. We don't have a people problem. We don't have a technology problem. These are all talking points. The problem that we have is a lack of seriousness. We have a lack of seriousness about things that actually matter and are so consumed by things that frankly don't matter that we are choosing to be spectators to our own destiny.
Yup. Brian, I just logged into Twitter earlier before we jumped in the show. First thing on the top of the trending news, trans athletes in women's sports. Okay. Yes, it matters, but will it matter if we are not around? What are we doing?
I mean,
and that's, yes.
Even today, everyone's all spun up over the Mayorkas thing. Right? Oh my God, we're impeaching him and Schumer's doing this and the Republicans are doing that and we're impeaching him and it hasn't been done in so long and all the other things. Well, the reality is, being frank about it, being honest and truthful about it, is that Mayorkas is just executing policies. That's all he's doing. Or, I mean, he's in the executive branch of government. That's all. But the policies allow him to do what he's doing. The answer is change the policies. And there's a whole bunch of ways to do that. But, and mind you, the border issue is the issue. It is the thing that keeps me up at night. What will hurt this country more than anything is a lack of internal security, a lack of counterintelligence, a lack of ability to screen bad guys. The ease of which it is to come into America is unbelievable. The hoops that we're jumping through right now in Haiti to take Haitian kids who are adopted by Americans, but the embassy isn't giving out passports for the last month, so they can't get out of the country. The hoops we are jumping through to get these kids who are adopted. They're Americans, but for a piece of paper that has to get stamped. I mean, that's it, right? The amount of hoops that we're jumping through. Every single family that we engage with this says, can't we just bring them through the southern border? Like, can't you just get my kids can't you just get my son to Florida? Like, what if I put him on a boat? Will that be okay? Can I get asylum if I just put him on a boat? Will you help me charter a boat from Haiti to Florida and then help us with the paperwork to get asylum for my baby? I had this conversation right before this call.
Wow.
So the idea that that's the answer, or maybe, just throwing it out there, maybe we take a whole bunch of consular officers and a whole bunch of Homeland Security guys and you put them up north at Cape Haitian in northern Haiti where it's safe and the airport is open. You do some sort of mobile thing. You bring out the old passport machine, or you write them a letter, or you charter a plane. You do what you need to do, and you figure out how to save kids. The answer shouldn't default to let's just break the law because honestly that's easier, better, and you're not punished for it. How did that happen? How did that? When we talk about illegal immigration, people always say, these people are taxes and to do this and to do that. All right, well, the first act of greatness is to execute a federal felony. That doesn't sound right.
Welcome to America. Here's your felony.
That doesn't sound right. That sounds a little backwards to me. All these issues are like this where, crime rates are down. Well, yeah, no kidding. It's called math. If you don't prosecute people, crime rates go down. Yeah, sure. It's called math.
I just had that literal argument with somebody they were talking about Philadelphia, where I used to live. They're like, well, Brian, crime rates are down. I'm like, yeah, because they're not charging them. They're not doing anything about this. Of course it's down. If I'm like, hey, I was going to do a silly analogy, but I realized that might make some people mad, so I'm not going to do that right now. Brian, we are unfortunately hard pressed for time. I know we got to get you back to saving the world. So with that being said, we obviously want people to go support Project Dynamo. So we're going to have that link in the show notes for people who want to go ahead and join the 50,000+ other folks who are donating to Project Dynamo. Folks, please sacrifice those 2 cups of coffee. Like if a little old lady, or heck, again, we don't know who it is, but if it's a little old lady who is going out and sacrificing 2 cups of coffee a day, I think you can do that too. So please go ahead to the show notes, give Project Dynamo some love, and to the point, start thinking about this stuff. Like really, we need to start paying attention. And I want to reiterate one thing you said, Brian. You can't be a spectator in your own life. You have to be an active participant. And I was getting ready to say that, like, don't be a spectator in your own life. And then you hold up the bracelet and I'm like, there you go. That is exactly what I was trying to articulate for a point here. And you did it with your little bracelet. So with that being said, Brian, thank you for joining us again. Just, any final words or heck, anything that people can do to help continue supporting the amazing work you guys are doing?
No, just please help us out. We're doing really hard work. My team and I love what we do, but we're donor funded. We're tax deductible. We're a 501c3, and we don't get anything from the government to save American lives, which sucks. But if Paul Revere were alive today, he'd have a dynamo patch on his horse, right? We just got to band together as Americans. That's all, and just please help us out.
Here. All right, folks. Links are all in the show notes. You know the drill. If you enjoyed the episode, please go ahead, give it a share when you do tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty. All the social media links for Project Dynamo are going to be included as well in the show notes, and where you can find the show, your favorite podcast, your favorite video platform, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, for podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music. Wherever it is you're listening or watching to the Brian Nichols Show, just please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us on a video, please head down below in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. Continue the conversation. And if you're listening to the audio version of the show, head to your favorite podcast catcher, hit download all unplayed episodes. Why? Because that's where the entire archive of all 830 plus other episodes here of the program exist, including some past appearances here by Bryan Stern. We talked about, yes, Maui. We talked about, I think we were talking about Ukraine. We talked a lot about all the great work Project Dynamo is doing. So please go ahead, check those episodes out, plus a few others. I guarantee if you do that, a few will leave you educated, enlightened, and informed. With that being said, one last plug, and that is to please support the folks who support us, our sponsors. So with our amazing sponsors that are like Cardio Miracle, we have our good friends over at Ebles CBD, The Wellness Company, Indie Emporium, and their brand new Michael Scott 2024 40-day plan shirt. You can grab all of those over at our homepage, bryannicholsshow.com. Check the sponsor links. Links are all included for your discount, 10% off here, 15% there, and every bit goes right back into the show to help us have amazing conversations like that we had today with Brian. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. Brian Nichols signing off here on the Bryan Nichols Show for Bryan Stern from Project Dynamo. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Bryan Nichols Show. Find more episodes at bryannicholsshow.com.